Hello. Welcome. How you doing? Oh man. Kicking it by myself. Hello, Robosty. Looks like you're all alone too. So, figured why not? What better day than today? Come on, focus there. There we go. Let's turn off autofocus on that camera. There we go. Configure. Well, you know what I mean. Your wife has abandoned you for a TV show as well, right? Focus apply. There we go. There, no more autofocus, so it shouldn't mess up on us. Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna start building my drone. Well, continue building. I've already done a little bit of work. So I got my motors installed with my speed controllers. So I should have all 4 of those. I'm not sure which one was which, so I'm going to need to retest them to figure out which one was for which motor. Speaking of which, do I have that sheet still? 1 second. Well, I must have thrown it out. Anyways, I gotta figure out whether these motors are clockwise or counterclockwise. So, let's grab a battery. Let's grab my servo tester. There we go. Alright. So if we hook the servo tester up, let's go this way. Input. There we go. So now we should plug in our servo. Should chime it up. Let's see if we plug that in wrong. No, that should be right. So let's plug this in. That should be minimum. This should beep when we fire it up. Come on. Oh no, I took off the beck, which means they won't work anymore unless I power them off the LiPo, which is where it gets a little dangerous, because I took off the power outside of. Come on. Let's use 2 separate batteries to test this. We'll use 2. We'll see. Oh, it's getting a little hot down here. Let's get this off. Okay, I should have marked these when I built them. Okay. This thing's not happy with me anymore. We might have popped it. That's not good. Oh yeah, it doesn't smell good. Well, might have just fried that. Yeah, something inside that didn't like that. That smells lovely. Oh, looks good though. Oh well. I guess we'll sort that out later. Once we get it powered up. So, we need to figure out which one of these go which way. Well, let's see. I can do it manually, so these caps are on right. So when this motor spins, the cap comes off. So this motor is a counterclockwise motor, because as it spins, it should force the cap on. So that's a counterclockwise motor. So this one should be counterclockwise, which means the other silver one should be counterclockwise. What's the voltage of those batteries? These are 3-cell lipos, so they're actually like 12 volts. What's up, Pumpkin Goth? But this is the balance plug. So the balance plug itself only has, you know, one of each wire, so it should have 3 volts on it. So if I plug it in here with positive, negative, it should power it up with just one of the cells, and it doesn't. So, but for some reason when I had this plugged in this way, and I had the actual motor plugged in, it was backfeeding somehow, and it did not like it. So theoretically you should be able to do that and get it all to work, but it popped the smoke. So oh well, these things are like $3. I'm not super worried about it. Throw it away. But so these should be counterclockwise because they're that, and then the black cap should be the other way, so these ones should be clockwise. So now we should be able to know where they go on the body. So let's go clockwise, clockwise. $700 nitro. Well, maybe. I'm not worried about it. I'm sure the speed controllers will still work. I just fried my servo tester because it backfed somehow and didn't like it very much. Oh well. But anyways, so the quadcopter, these are the counterclockwise. So the counterclockwise should go here and here. Clockwise should go there and there, like that. So black in the top left. This is the frame that we're working with. So this is what it's going to actually go in eventually. I have two, so these arms will replace these ones. But you can see that this is where the power management system and the flight controller mount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually shift this. So I have another frame kit I'm actually going to modify. So instead of it looking like this, I'm actually going to cut these ones and mount them in the middle like that. And the wings will be in the middle, and then the power system will go on the bottom side, and the flight system will go on the front side, top side, and then we'll cut this frame. So we're gonna cut this frame off right here, and that'll give us room for our camera to mount. So this is the mock-up frame. We're gonna use this top piece from it, but we need to cut this frame itself. So I need to actually cut these middle sections out of it before we can actually start assembling. So I guess I can do that for now. Get that frame cut up real quick. Shouldn't take but a second. Feels bad cutting into fresh, brand new carbon fiber, but oh well. It's gonna smell nice. Breathe it in, baby. Breathe it in. So let's get these all sandwiched up so I can cut them both at one time. There we go. They don't have to be like perfectly symmetrical, but I'd like it to look somewhat decent. So there, if we put those that way, now I can actually, where did I put that Sharpie? I can actually cut that there, and that one there, and then we can kind of go straight in line with those wing mounts there. Something like that. That should give us room. So let's look at our camera setup. So this is our camera. It's actually going to mount in this. So inside this frame bag, we have a camera mount. And this camera mount actually has notches in the frame right here. So it should pop into these. See, right here. Come on. So it mounts in like that and it gets sandwiched. You can see that. So if I mount this camera here, having these cut out should give me room for my camera, because those will be floating in the middle. It is going to have a little bit of tilt back on it, like that, so that when I'm in headed flying forward, I will be somewhat looking forward still, because this camera is going to connect to my FPV headset. So this little camera will transmit to my FPV goggles over here. So I have goggles, so when I power up the camera, they will connect to these goggles. It's pretty sweet. So we'll be able to fly with a headset on. Oh, drop that. So let's get this cut up real quick. For that, I'm gonna have to ditch the headphones. Get some light on. Alright. Well, let's start by making a jig. We can clamp that on. Work with the clamp. There's that one. Clamp this side. Alright, let's cut this bad boy. They are cool. I'll be back on the camera in a second. I just gotta cut the tip of this frame off. Bear with me. have a man shed, trust me. My man shed is right behind me, but you don't want to see that. And also my PC is not in the man shed, so can't really do this build in the man shed. There we go, that'll work. Sweet. So let's get these unwrapped. So if that's the top and bottom, they're not quite symmetrical. We can file them a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it. So now we need some more hardware. So we got screws, little screws for the standoffs, and then these are the wing screws. So we need a little bit of a gap because the standoffs are going to get cut in half and they're going to sit on top, but the screw on the back side, if we use the standard wing thickness, which is a little bit thicker, I think this is 2mm and the wing's 4, but the 4mm gap isn't enough for 2 screw heads. So what I'm going to do is I have plastic standoffs. So these are nylon standoffs. That's what you're going to mount the boards with and stuff, but they come with lots of nuts. Plastic nuts. So what we're going to end up doing is we'll take the bottom frame, we'll put the, okay, so this is the front, so this is going to be a clockwise over here. So we can actually take this wing, we can pop it on this screw, and then these screws are actually longer than they need to be, so I can take one of these plastic M3 nuts and thread it onto the onto the bolt for the wing. So we're actually going to kind of like use the plastic bolts to hold the wing on to that one. And so then that gives us a tad bit of distance right there. So then when we put this one on top, we could fit our wires in between. So all these wires can now go like this. So the black and the red and the white, or the black, the red, and then the brown and the yellow will go in between. And then this one will be able to go on top like that. So now we can sandwich all those wires in. So what I need to do is I need to get all of these arms bolted on with plastic nuts first. So that'll get the basic frame, and then we can mount the power distribution board onto this bottom chassis, and then we can solder all the speed controllers to the power distribution board. Then once we get the power distribution board, we can actually bolt up the whole thing. The bottom section will be done. So the power section on the bottom will be done. So there's one wing with 4 nuts. And this will be the back side. We still got a lot of like fiddling around to do because we got a lot of different components that need to be mounted on this thing. So there's that one. So now we can do the next one. Very tedious, but somebody's got to do it. And that somebody ends up being me. We have new DuPont connectors. So these wires here, these really long ones, these plug into the flight controller, but as you can see they're really long and the flight controller is going to be mounted right here. So we're actually going to cut these short and we're going to remount new DuPonts. So I have the DuPonts already. So right here are the new 3-prong. Here's the new pins. And then we have the crimping tool. So we can re-crimp them and we can just make it really, really compact. That way it's a super clean build, because I don't want... A lot of people just like bundle up the wires and zip tie them back, which is fine, but I want this to be a really, really clean build. As clean as I can get it. And I'm doing the whole custom frame thing. So, I mean, if I'm going completely custom, I might as well make it as clean as possible. That way I don't get as much critique. Be like, wow, you went custom and you look like crap. So, by the time this thing's done, it should be super duper clean and should look really, really slick. I'm basically minimizing the size of this as much as I can. That way everything is as compact as possible. So this is a 250 frame, so that means it's 250 millimeters from tip to tip of the motors diagonally. So 250 is relatively small. You can get a lot smaller, you know, they got 180s out there. But I figured 250 was a good size to start with. And this is my first build, so once this one's done, I'll probably end up crashing it and breaking it. That's why I wanted to build and not buy. That way, when I break it, I know what's up and I can fix it. When you buy them, it's like, yeah, this is all good, but then it gets a lot harder to fix it when you break it because you didn't know how it went together. So, I already went custom with these speed controllers because they had a 5-volt battery supply on them. So basically, it would take the battery voltage, the battery mains coming into the two main power wires, so the red and the black, the big ones, those power the motor, and then the orange and the brown ones are the control signal from the flight controller. And these were Becked speed controllers, so they had another wire coming off of them that went back to the flight controller to give it power. But since we have a power distribution board with a 5-volt Beck on it, we're going to use that 5-volt because it's going to be a lot cleaner than the built-in one from the flight controller or from the speed controller, because the speed controller's got a lot of noise from the motors and stuff. So we'll get a much cleaner power source from the Beck off of the power distribution board, the PDB. So I ended up desoldering that Beck wire, depinning it out of the connector. And then also these motors had long tails on them. And so what I did is I cut the heat shrink off of the speed controllers and I custom soldered each motor to the speed controller, because the speed controller had 3 wires coming off of it and the motor had 3 wires. So altogether the whole system would have been like this long. So I basically took the speed controller wires off, the motor wires off the speed controllers, and then took the motor wires and cut them as short as they needed to be to solder them perfectly onto the speed controller's PCBs. And then I reheat shrinked them with a clear heat shrink so I can check to make sure like any components don't get fried or anything like that. But I just remembered that when I was trying to test the speed controller, it doesn't have the Beck on it anymore, so with that servo tester it wouldn't have worked, but it should have worked the way I did it, but something was up, so it didn't like what I did. I did it before. I tested it several times when I was building them to make sure that the motors were spinning in the right directions, because when you put these motors on, they're stepper motors and they have 3 wires, so depending on what order you wire them, 1 2 3 or 1 3 2, or it doesn't really matter, you can put all 3 wires connected to the speed controller, and depending on that order will determine what direction the motor spins. And with it being a quadcopter, 2 motors have to spin clockwise, 2 motors have to spin counterclockwise. So if you wire your motors up backwards, then you'll have a motor that spins backwards. So all you have to do is flip 2 wires. So the first thing I did was I tested the motors to figure out which way they would spin, and then once I figured out it was right, then I trimmed them and soldered them and made them final. So the way they're wired should be good. But also, I haven't double checked, but I'm pretty sure that my speed controllers are flashed with BL Heli. And if they are, then if for some reason I got it wrong, I can just go into the BL Heli firmware and I should be able to swap the spin direction of the motor anyways. So if that's the case, even if I did get it wrong, then it's okay. The only thing I need to make sure I get right is these caps, because once there's a wing on, this one needs to spin clockwise, and this cap will come off in counterclockwise. So if I spin this motor counterclockwise like this, which is not the way it should be going clockwise, this cap will actually come off. And if you do that while you're in flight, you're gonna lose your propeller, because these bad boys end up going on there. So we got propellers. These are one clockwise, one counterclockwise, and same here, one clockwise, one counterclockwise. And I'm gonna crash quite a bit, so yeah, I've got some spares. Got plenty to spare, because I know I will crash, and I'm gonna break these things a lot. So hopefully the only thing I break when I crash is my propellers, because they're cheap. Okay, last one, and these arms should be attached. So let's throw that on there, and then let's put this on. There we go. Come on, that one's cross-threading. It's nylon anyway, so it's not like it's really that important. There we go. Okay. Now I should have an Allen in here somewhere to tighten these bad boys. It's probably going to end up being in there's my radio receiver, there's my antenna extensions, there's one of my, so this power distribution board I got, but it doesn't have the mounting holes to mount nicely in there, so I ended up buying a new one. So that one's probably going to get trashed anyways. Save it for another compact build. I should have an Allen in here. There's my battery, I'm going to need that. I'm going to need all this stuff. And there's the flight controller. Is there an Allen in there? Nope. So there's my flight controller. I should have an Allen that came with this, but maybe I don't. Okay. Here's my FTDI adapter. Gonna need that. Probably not tonight, but I will need it. So the FTDI adapter is what I'm gonna use to flash my micro minium OSD. So where is that at? There's frame, more frame. Here it is. So here's my OSD. Come on. So this guy here, it's very small. So this is the micro mini version. But this right here is my on-screen display. So what this will do is it will actually communicate with the flight controller. It'll get things like battery voltage, altitude, heading, throttle, you know, all the different stats, and it will overlay it on top of my headset so that I'll be able to see that stuff in the headset while I'm flying. So we're gonna need this too. This is my camera's transmitter, so we gotta figure out where to mount that as well. That one's gonna be a little bit more of a pain to mount. And here's that, so we're gonna need to do the power for that. Okay, welcome back. We're just kind of digging through our box of treasures here, looking for the Allen. There it is. Found it. Let's see if it's the right size though. Probably should be. Let's check. Boom, it is. Okay. So that means we can tighten all these up a little bit. Snug them up. There we go. And that should put this frame pretty much where I need it to be for the bottom section. I was actually at the park the other day flying my son's little toy drone, and that's when I was like, you know what? I need to get this thing done. I've had the parts for a while, and I'm like, that's it. I'm just gonna do it. Just gonna build it. Probably won't get it done tonight, but hopefully I get a good head start on it. That would be the ideal thing. Because at least if we can get some of it done. Okay, so there's that. So the next thing we need to do is we need to mount the power distribution board. So that right here. So here's the power distribution board. So it basically has the pads, power, ground, battery, power and ground. And over here we have power and ground, another 12 volt. Then we have cam voltage here, and then a 5 volt source over here, and then VTX, which is the where did I just put that? VTX would be for the transmitter right here. So that'll power the transmitter for the radio control. And then over here we have some 5 volts that we can run to the PCB or to the flight controller. Next, after this project, you need to create an AI for a drone using an Arduino or Raspberry Pi. There you go. That would be an interesting thing. Well, right now, we will be controlling it with this. So, it will be a radio controlled drone, but it also has a camera. So this camera will actually feed flight information to my VR headset. So I'll be flying it from the perspective of the drone. So this is a first-person vision racing drone. Okay, so if this mounts here, I need these, which means I need a screwdriver. Phillips head. It's in this shop behind me. 1 second. All right. Yep. Right here. Camera. Talks to radio receiver. Radio receiver has antenna. That antenna will talk to this antenna. So just like that. So this will talk to that, which will talk to this. It's a standalone system. But in between this, the camera and that, is going to be my micro minium OSD, which will give me in-flight data like latitude, longitude, altitude, battery voltage, throttle amounts, yaw rate, stuff like that, horizon. So got all that stuff. Alright, so we need to mount this. We want the battery, I think, in the rear. That's what I need to figure out. So before I solder this on, I need to figure out exactly where the battery is going to mount. So I'm pretty sure I decided it's going to go in the back. So we'll mount it that way for now. But I'm not going to solder anything until we get that officially laid out. So let's get this screwed into the power distribution board. So there's that one. Let's get the other corner. There we go. Boom, boom. Okay. So there's the power distribution board, at least mounted. So everything is going to end up getting its power from here. So basically we'll take all of these wires, we'll send them through to the other side, and then once they're on the other side, we'll solder them to the positive and the negatives like that. So once these are through, then we'll be able to do that. But before we do that, we need to mount our flight controller to the top plate. So let's get our flight controller out. And let's see. So that's going to go on here. We want it to be this way, and we want the bulk of the stuff to the back. There we go. Come on, Pretzel, catch up. Play the next song. All the fun stuff. Yep. We're using a gyroscope and our altimeter. You easily make simple program. It'll stand still and win. Yeah, but I don't really need that because the flight controller itself has a program. So if I want to activate it, I can literally use the program on the flight controller. I'll have to do some fine-tuning with PID rates and stuff like that, but I could literally just hit the launch button. It would take off and just sit there and float. Alright, Pretzel, come on. Work with me. Next song. There we go. So this is where the flight controller is. Now I gotta remember that when I program this, there it goes, tweaking out. Why are you borking on me now? Come on. Jeez Louise. Pretzel died. Pretzel has died. Come on. Back to life. Loading. 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 I don't know about yours, but the one I have, you have to adjust the angle of the drone. Yours may do it automatically. Yep. Well, it depends. I can either have it do it automatically, or I can make it completely stupid, where I gotta control it 100% on my own. So the level of like involvement of the flight controller in the actual control of the flight is all up to me. I can program it whichever way I want, which I'll probably make it have some bit of assistance in the beginning as I get better at flying a higher speed. I mean, I've played around with a bunch of toys, but they're nowhere near the status of this thing. This thing is going to be cruising. You know, this thing will probably do 40 with a 3-cell LiPo. Oh, I gotta make sure my batteries are charging. Okay. So that's one battery charging. And Pretzel is dead. Awesome. Well, if Pretzel died, looks like we're going with Spotify. Sorry, Twitch. We'll try and use a safe for stream playlist. There we go. Okay, back to it. Now that we have music. Ooh, if it needs to be adjusted, let me know, because I did just switch programs. And it is quite hot in the ears. Which means it's probably hot for you guys too. But I don't know. Okay. So the flight controller's on. So these all need to come up to the top side. So the question is, what do we do? Let's get this frame out of here because that's the old frame. Seems fine here. Perfect. Okay. So we need to sandwich all this in between. So these need to go through, but we should probably tag them as the same, because the last thing I want to do is send them through and then get them mixed up so they're powering the wrong ones. So let's flag them together so we know which pairs go together, and then we will shove them through and then try and sandwich this thing together. So that'll go through here, that one will go through there. Okay. Snag these ones, and last but not least, wife's gonna kill me when she comes home and sees the mess I've created. That's okay. Alright. So this needs to be through the middle. We can send this through there, like that. And then this one, these can come up through the middle, because they're going to be on the top side, because they need to go to the flight controller. And then this can go through the bottom side, like that, and like that. Okay, so these are going to come up through this section here, and then this one will come up through this section here. Okay, and then this one come up through here, or they'll probably come through the back side. Yeah, we'll probably weave them out and have them all come up through. Yeah, they'll all come through this back section. And then this one will come up through the back section as well. So now we need to make sure that we don't pinch any of these wires when we put this on. This is the tricky part. So let's there we go. Okay. See if we can get this one on. All right. Where'd that little Allen go? PID controller, yes. I can adjust the PIDs on the flight controller. I have to, otherwise I'll get a very horrible flight response out of it. So once this is done, one of the big jobs I have to do is I gotta go in and adjust all the PID levels over and over and over. Because with a PID loop, you adjust it and then it changes it, so then you have to adjust it again. So you have to like constantly fine tune your PIDs. Okay, let's get this down. So I will be messing with my PIDs constantly till I get it tuned to fly the way I want it to. Okay, let's get that red wire out of the way. Come on. There we go. So that one's sandwiched, and so is that one. So now we can take the lock nuts, put the lock nuts on. I'll probably have to go find a little wrench for these lock nuts though, because I don't think I have one. Alright. It's starting to look like a drone. Oh, I can't put this on yet. I need to put the standoffs on it. Well, good thing I figured that out now. Which means we need to figure out what size the standoffs are going to be. Because I got to trim them all. which I might trim them later because I don't really want to spend all my time on stream at the scroll saw cutting little aluminum pipes. So we might trim the standoffs later, but good thing I figured that out now. Come on. That's a tight squeeze right there. There we go. So we're gonna build these as a top section and a bottom section, and then we'll put the standoffs on. So this will end up all coming out the center like that. That'll look cool though. See, that already looks like a much cleaner build. Just like that. Like, that looks super clean. So we're actually going to end up using the top section from both frames. So this frame, we're going to use the top section from it as well. And together, these two frames are going to make up We're gonna need some crashing and breaking it. Makes it a little easier to take it back apart. And we will inevitably end up crashing and breaking it. There we go. Zip tie-ins. Where's my trash box? Not that one. Oh well. I don't have a trash box, I guess. I guess we'll just use this trash can. That'll work. Ooh. Got one Skittle left. Mine. Try and take it from me. Okay. So that's the camera. Oh. Design flaw. Zip tie's gone. There's one bottom zip tie, there's the other. The zip tie was not clearing the frame because of the little square head. So we need to put it on the back side. So let's put that up through. Let's put the head flush against the back. Now we shouldn't have any clearance issues. So we'll put that up through. Put the head of the zip tie on the back. There we go. Trim those bad boys off. Trash a can of do. And then, there, now it clears. So now we can put that there. We can take a little Allen. There's one. And there's the other. And screw those down. Zip, zip, zip. There we go, there's one. That might be a little bit too much rake. We'll see. I guess I'll know when I start flying it for the first time if I'm looking a little too high. But I guess it's squishy, so if it's too high, I guess I could just squeeze it more and zip tie it tighter. So that's a benefit, I guess. But hopefully that little rubber cushion also gives us a tiny bit of vibration control too. So then basically, there's the mid-frame section with the camera mounted. So take the lens cap off and there's our camera. Pretty cool. And it should be relatively straight. Unless it got zip tied a little wonky, but oh well. If it's a tad bit cockeyed, I don't think it's really going to matter. But then since we cut this, so basically, you'll see, here's why I wanted to do it. Now you'll exactly see my thought process on this. So we'll take this, we'll sandwich all these wires, right? I might be pinching one or two, but it's just kind of roughly sandwiched together. So there's the flight part. There's the power control part. So you can see that's the profile. All the power wires are on the inside. It will be a little bit tighter, but then all that will fit right in there. Like that's clean looking in my opinion. Like I said, it'll be a little tighter on the inside. I like that. That's cool. Super cool. Yep. I like it a lot. Boom. So the question is, let's get that out of here. We have quite a bit of space between the power distribution board and the frame. Now we can't mount the power distribution board directly to the frame because you may or may not know carbon fiber is conductive. So that's why I had to heat shrink these, not to protect them from weather, but to protect them from grounding on the carbon fiber. But do we have a shorter solution for the power distribution board? Just to give us a little bit more clearance, because I used the shortest standoffs we have, but we probably couldn't get away with 2 screws. Nope. Yeah, it's not going to get any shorter than that, but I don't think we'll need it. Once that top piece is on, it should give us enough clearance. And then it gives us a nice pass-through if we need to send wires underneath it as well. So, I'm not super worried about it. But, let's clip this top piece on just for now, even though we're going to need to put the standoffs in. That way we can start laying out other things. So let's just lay this on top, just to get a rough dimensional feel for the drone. Let's make sure we don't pinch any wires. Just squeeze this together a little bit. There we go. Are we pinching anything on this side? Maybe. There we go. And over here, are we clear of wires? Looks like we are. Okay, and then over here, clear these wires. Looks like we might be pinching right there. There we go. So now I'll just take it a little nylon and just hold this on for prototyping reasons. There's that one. There's that one. That way we just get a rough size. Now these wires hanging out the back won't be there, obviously. Let's ditch those. They will be gone. Okay. Ugh. So now, that's the rough shape. We need to figure out if this goes inside of that, sits like that. So there's the rough size. How can we get the batteries? So the battery is going to mount on top with a Velcro strap as close to the middle as we can get it for weight distribution. But if that's the case, where do we put our battery plug? That's what we need to figure out. I'm gonna do something. It's fine because we're not wired up. Usually you don't do this, but I'm gonna do it now because we're not wired up. If we were wired up, I would not be doing this. But we're gonna throw some propellers on just to see what kind of clearance we have to make sure we don't cut any wires. Because I don't want to put the battery in a spot that's going to get clipped by a propeller. That would be bad. So I'm not even going to worry about putting them in the right spots. We're literally just going to throw a propeller on each wing or each arm. And like I said, if they're in the right spots, who cares? I don't. It's just for clearance purposes. So there's one. There's the other one. So these are 50/30s, which is a 5-inch blade with a 30 degree blade angle. Theoretically, if you did this, you would put two of the same color on like the front and two of the same on the back. That way you can visually identify the front and rear of your drone if you're flying line of sight. Since I'm not flying line of sight, that doesn't really matter because I'm not going to be looking at my drone. I won't even see it. It'll literally just be an entity. There we go. Let's throw that on. Alright, so if that's where this sits, so we got quite a bit of clearance. We could send the battery up the side here. So let's see. If we strap a battery on, let's see what kind of clearances we have. So we're going to take this. We'll probably send it up through, back down, through, like that. This will probably go in here. Give it a little slack. And then that'll probably go like this. And so that'll strap something like that. So let's see. Where can we send these battery wires? That's the question. My blanket smells like wet dog. Oh, that's lovely. All right. So, we just got to be careful we don't clip the battery wire. So we're coming off the back side with this. So we could actually double it back and send it out the middle. So if that came out the middle, we could flip the battery around to face the front, or we could turn the power distribution board around. So if the power distribution board got turned around, we could then probably, let's see, if we loosened this a little bit, let's see, could we, yeah, I think that'll work. So I think what we can do is we can loosen the battery strap just a tad. And then we could do something like, we could flip the power distribution board around so that the battery tie down was on the front instead of the back like I originally thought we'd put it. We could zip tie that there, and then it could get tucked in the side here, and then we could just double that back like that. The chances of it getting clipped, well, I guess we could probably strap it closer. We could take our battery packs and we could do that, and we could tape them. So if I actually grabbed electrical tape, and we tape our battery packs with the power and ground on the side like this. So let me take some electrical tape. So if we just took all our battery packs and taped them like that, then we could mount our battery packs in the frame, and then this battery could come up the side, and we could just plug it in. I think that would work. Which means we actually might want... Yeah. So we're going to want to flip this one over. So we're going to want the battery connection to be in the front so we can actually solder it like this and then zip tie it to the frame right there. That's the plan. So we got to flip this around. That's not bad. We'll just take these nuts off. There we go. And then we'll just take that off. Rotate it 180 degrees. We could actually flip it upside down, but that would put all of our wires soldered on the underside, which would make it a lot harder to maintain it. The whole idea is we can take off this camera shell, and we have our power system here, and our flight system there. So it makes maintenance on this thing a little bit easier that way. I don't know, this is my first drone build, so I'm just trying to think how I would want it done. So that's the way it's getting done. So that would go there. So I guess we're ready to do a solder. I guess we can attach that battery main voltage, huh? Put the battery main on and zip tie it in place. I think so. Alright. Well, let's do some soldering, I guess. So we can tuck these underneath because I don't want to get them accidentally soldered. Come on. Underneath you go. There we go. Alright. I have my soldering iron, but I don't have my soldering kit. So, let's get this plugged in and warming up. There we go. Now I'll go grab the solder while that warms up. Here's my electrical kit. Inside this should be my soldering kit, along with my heat shrink gun, all my Arduino stuff, my breakout board. Probably gonna need some of this. No, this is copper wire. We won't need copper or hard wire. We're gonna need the soft wire. There we go. So there's my soldering kit. Now we have this wire for the drone. It's soft silicone wire, lightweight. The other stuff is solid core. I used it for jumpers on a PCB build. Okay. Let's get this solder. Okay. What temp is this set at? 450. That's probably a little hot. So these should be pre-tinned already. So I guess what we need to do is we need to tin these. So let's get these pads tinned up. There we go. It's one pad tinned. There's the other pad tinned. Okay. Negative on this side. Let's go. Maybe the 450 would have been a little better. This is a little on the thick side. Let's pump up the heat a tad bit. Let's tin these up a little bit more. Get a good tinning on them. Fill all these holes. There we go. Tin this one up a little bit more. Get that pad completely covered. There we go. Negative to the negative. And there's one. Okay. Let's do our positive. There we go. Come on. There we go. Okay. So there's our power and ground connected. Make sure we don't have any crossover. But the way that's designed is the power pad over here is on the same side, so it's quite nice because you can't really short it. And then these ones have a little bit bigger gap, and that's where the negative is. But those are a lot smaller wires, so you shouldn't have an issue with those. Just a little bit of PCB sealant on those ones. Got a little piece of solder that broke off. There we go. While we have the soldering iron, we might as well tin all of these. I mean, why not? We're gonna be using them, so let's just tin them all. Then we won't have to tin them later. There we go. Okay. Let's tin these front ones. There we go. I don't plan on connecting the motors right now anyways, until we get the standoffs frame standoffs on. But like I said, we're already tinning the power and ground. We already attached those. So we might as well tin up all those pads too. That one's looking a little rough. Let's smooth that one out a little bit. Fill in that hole back there. There we go. It's a little tight against the standoff on the nylon, but there you go. Those are all tinned up, so that should be good. There. These are a mess right now, but they're going to end up coming up through this hole and connecting there anyways. And we're going to shorten up all those wires. Okay. So, in theory, we should be able to plug that in. And then we got the power wire on. You can't see that. Here, let's shut the light off. There you go. So now you can see the power. So there we go. Got the power for the power distribution board. So that's a plus. So now this is going to come out the side. Which means we need to zip tie it. So, let's see. This is this motor over here. Let's get that light back on. This is this motor over here. So those are going to go there, which means this can come out there. So let's get a zip tie. Let's just zip tie that up for now. We'll go all the way through. No, we'll just do, because we want this to be on a separate standalone power system board, so we don't want to accidentally zip tie it to our flight controller board. So let's get the zip tie fed through. There we go. Get it linked. So this is going to end up coming up right here. So we can zip tie it like that. Yep. That will work. So then this will go on like that. What are we catching on? That'll go on like that. And then we can plug in our battery. Oh, we went over the wrong side. It was supposed to go out the other side because of the way I taped my battery. So it's now flipped around. Yeah. But that should work. That should work good. Perfect. So let's get rid of that zip tie for now, because it might get in the way when we're doing the rest of the PDB, power distribution board soldering. But that'll work, but it's also going to end up going over this side. But for now, see, I thought about sending it around this way, but I can't reach. I would have needed a longer end, which I can always get later if this situation, if this setup doesn't quite work out well. I can always get a new battery cable connector that's longer. Okay, we should be done soldering for now, so we can move the soldering iron. Get rid of that. Alright, it's 10 o'clock, which means the wife should be heading out soon. And I'll be hopping off whenever she gets out. But we'll keep on moseying with the design while she's doing that. So that'll come off to the side. So what we need to figure out, let's get rid of this battery strap for now, because I know where that's going to go. Don't really need it for testing purposes. So let's ditch that. What do we need to figure out where it needs to mount? That's what we need. That's what we need to figure out. So we have this that needs to get mounted. That's the receiver for the flight, for the controller, not the flight controller. We have that, which needs to get mounted as well. So that's the receiver for the camera. This is the receiver for the controller. We have these cables, which we will end up drilling a hole somewhere for. We also need to mount the micro minium OSD. And that should be the last of the components that need to get mounted onto the drone. Yeah. I don't think we need to mount anything else. So this needs to figure out, one of these is gone. That will be for the headset, which is over here. Mount that, screw that on for now. Okay. So, we need to figure out where these components will be going. That's the next step. Laying out these components. Okay. Let's check this battery real quick. That one's full. Let's charge up that one. Most of these batteries are actually in pretty good shape. I don't use them, so I have to keep them regularly balanced. What I do is when I'm done, I tuck my balancer through. That is a good balanced battery. If they aren't tucked in, it means they need to be charged and balanced. So this one is, I think, is junk. And so is this one. It's a little bit swollen. They charge up okay, but they're just a tad bit puffy. So these two might be junk. So we might have to replace those. But that's why I keep them in the fireproof bag. That way they don't blows up on me. Okay, so we should have clearance for this. I'm not worried about the clearance on this. So this here is our radio controller, and it connects to the flight controller via, well, I have mine. I have that. You probably can't see it on the bed, but right there's a nice LiPo one. They charge. They're just a little puffy, so I have a feeling they don't hold a charge very well. So I have these wires. These are for the flight controller. Again, this is all about that clean build I was talking about. So this one here is your 4 that go to auxiliary things like power, camera, flight controller data. So that one doesn't, we're going to use it, but it's not the important one. This one here, so I have to do the research to figure out which channel is which, but basically all of these are going to plug into this. Like I said, I don't know what the order is. I'll have to look it up, figure out which one is which channel. But you can see we have all the different channels. And then the one over here that says battery will be this one. This is a 6 channel. We only need 4 channels. But these will all get plugged in to channel 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Four channels plus another, and then the power. So those all get plugged in like that. But as you can see, if this gets mounted where I think it's going to go, which is here, and this plugs in over here, I guess that's not too much excess wire. I just don't want a whole slew of excess wire coming out of this thing. We could even send it underneath. Yeah, we got plenty of room underneath. We could even take this and zip it right underneath this thing. Come on. Work with me. Oh, there's a hole. Yeah, we could probably run that underneath. But that's probably going to ended up getting mounted right there. And then this will just double back and plug in right here. So those will probably go underneath. So that's not too much wires. I bought a second one just in case I wanted to shorten them. But we could shorten them and turn this flight controller around, which I might end up doing that, because that'll keep these plugs away from the receiver. So let's flip the CC3D around. But we also got to remember, when we flip this around, when we program it, we just got to tell it which way this little black arrow right there is pointing. Because if that arrow's supposed to be pointing forward. That's the way it's designed. But I'll show you why I don't want to do that. I do not want it pointing forward. So if we take the CC3D, mount it on the top, and point it facing forward like they want you to originally, like this, we now have all of the pins for the speed controllers coming out the side. So then those would stick on, and they stick out past the drone. Like, look at that. They stick out past the body. Problem number 1. Problem number 2, the USB port right there to program it is now tucked all the way in the bottom. So we're going to flip it this way. So now we'll be able to shorten all these wires and literally plug that sucker right in like that. That'll look super clean. And then these ones can all pop up through this hole up here in the front. Instead of coming out the back hole like I first originally thought I would, we'll make them come out the front and we'll plop them right there. And then that also puts our USB right on the side. So I think that's going to be the best setup. So we'll leave the CC3D mounted like that. That'll be the best way to do it. Which means we need to shorten all of those all of those flight controller wires by like 75% or something stupid. But honestly, you're telling me if I mounted this here and we did like a weird little wire coil, does that look clean? If we zip tied that all down, no. But if we shortened them all, that looks pretty clean. That looks really clean. Then if we ever need to service this, we unhook it and we just pop it off there, and it's almost as if it was its own component with its own little stubby wiring harness. So we're just going to take this and we're going to repin it like that. It's super short. So that'll be a good plan. So this needs to get mounted, which means we're probably going to have to file. I don't know if we'll be able to fit. Let's give it a shot. So if we put a nut here, and we put a nut there. Come on. Get started. There we go. So if we put the two nuts there that are supposed to be there, will this fit in between it? It will not. So we need to file little grooves in this case for those nuts. We're going to want it probably in a little bit, like that. Let's go right at the edge of the case. Yeah, I guarantee we can just file into this case. Should we take the case off to see what's underneath? See what's inside of it? Probably, before I wreck it. Is this screwdriver small enough? It's not. Let's go grab a puny screwdriver and open this case up. Make sure we won't mess up the circuit board. Alright. Let's crack this sucker open real quick. See what's inside of it. I'm probably going to end up keeping the case on. I won't fly it without the case, but I just want to make sure I can trim that case up without damaging the circuit board, and that'll make it fit really nicely. Oh yeah, look at that, we got a little bit of a groove right there. So as long as we file the case, right at the hip, right there. Actually, this is pretty darn soft plastic. We could probably just carve it with the X-Acto knife. It's quite thick too. Okay. Move this over here. Let's carve that out. Yeah, we broke through now. There we go. Okay, let's carve the other side real quick. Get it in the same line. There we go. There we go. Let's see if this thing fits in there now. Oh yeah. Like a glove. So now we have that little tiny groove, so it fits right inside. Look, it doesn't even shift around. Boom. And we'll just give it a little zippy tie down. Might have to drill some auxiliary holes in the side, but that'll work great. So, let's pop this thing together. Screw it back together and we'll be ready to go for that. Okay. Got those grommets in place. Get these little eeny beeny tiny whiny screws in. Okay. So that's settled. We now know this goes right here. It doesn't even shift around. Perfect. So all we need to do is give that a little tiny strapping with a zip tie. Shorten up one of these cables. I bought an extra in case we jacked it up. So we'll be straight with that. Alright, so we can put these back in the flight controller case for now. The flight controller also came with this little case on it, but I just took it off because I wanted to shave as much weight off this thing as I can. Make it as light as possible. Alright, so there's the flight controller sorted, or the receiver sorted. So now we need to figure out where the camera's gonna go. The camera, what I want to do with the camera is, so on the top side you can see there's a hole right here. Right there on the tip, there's a hole. I have an extension cable right here, and it's got like the threads on it. So basically we can thread this in and we can mount our circular polarized antenna to it. So what I'm thinking we're going to end up doing is we're probably going to end up mounting this, drilling that hole out and mounting this here so that the antenna would go right up the top of the back side of the drone. So here's the camera in the front, so then the antenna would just pop up right here, and then we'd have the battery strapped on top like that. So if that's the case, we lost a screw from the flight controller case, but that's okay, we're not using it anyways. Let's throw that back in there. So if this sits in here like this, and the receiver controller sits like that, very flush with the surface, we will not be able to mount this here because this doesn't have room because of the flight control or the receiver. So it makes me wonder if we should take this receiver and mount it to the bottom side like this. So we'd send these wires forward a little bit more, pop them out there, and should we mount this coming out the bottom side, and then we can just transfer that wire from here through this center section here and plug it in there. So we'd end up taking this, sending it through like that. So it would just plug in up here, and then we'd take this, send it here, and then attach this there. The question is, will we have room for it? We should. I don't see why we wouldn't. Yeah, we should have room, just barely, but we should have room. It should sit like super duper flush. We just need to make sure our bottom standoffs are as thick as this, and that'll give us enough clearance. So if we did that, come on. So if we mounted that there, that would give us some clearance for the camera. But if that's the case, we kind of want to keep, this is supposed to be the camera section, so we kind of want to keep it all contained. So we could mount this here, and then we'll have to do like a little loop-de-loo out the back, and then we could take this and we could mount it directly up top. As long as we didn't go any closer than this cutout here, we wouldn't run into the flight controller. We have a dip switch on it, like a little button right here to change the channel. So there's a button on the side to change the channel. So we just need to make sure that's available. So we could actually mount that like this. We could even zip tie it there, or double-sided tape it. So then we could take this, attach that like that, and it would just come out. It would do a little loop and pop out there. So then we'd have this little loop off the back, but that wouldn't be a big problem. But that means we need to drill this top plate out enough to receive this. So let's grab the drill and a drill bit, I guess. Let's get it drilled. Okay, what size is this? About that size. That's how precise we're gonna get today. So, got nothing to push against. Let me grab something to push against. What do we got in here? Could have swore I had a block of wood down here. Let me check. No? I had a block of wood down here. Wonder where it went. Oh well. Push against it. This carbon fiber is some tough stuff. There it goes. All right. Tough stuff. Trim the blow through. There we go. There we go. Clean. So then this. Oh, bummer. It drilled the wrong one. Should have seen that coming. Not a big deal. It just means we gotta switch it around, switch the camera around. So we gotta take this off. Take the camera, flip it over. My bad. Noob mistake. Thread that back on. There we go. Okay, so that's there. So then this can go here. It'll flip, double back around. Then we can put the lock washer. Come on. Pick that up. And then this goes here. I'll have to get a wrench later and make sure that's tight. But for now, that'll work. It's probably gonna have to we gotta figure out what to do here. We might have to cut a notch in this section here for this wire to go through. But then it would run really nicely down through that middle section there. Yep. And then it'll double back. This will attach like this. And then that will just get mounted here like that. So that'll just loop off the back like that, get mounted there, probably with something just super simple. Probably go through like this, back up, avoid that button, probably do some double-sided tape and a zip tie. I mean, it's probably literally going to be attached just like that. I don't see why we'd do it any differently. And then we still have our button. We could go in there with a just, you know, once it's together, we could just go in there with a thing and can't tell, but I'm pushing that button to change the channel. So that would work. That means we're going to have to cut a notch in that to fit through that. Not a problem. Not a problem. The other option would be to see if it fits through there, because that's kind of cone. You might not be able to see it, but it's kind of like tipped, has a cone tip to it. If we could fit the extension through that, then it would work. So that's where that's gonna go. So that sorts that. Okay, last thing we need to sort out is where this is going to get mounted. But we also have to remember this microminium OSD is also going to have, there's this right here. So this is going to get mounted to it. So these are header pins. So we're going to solder these, come on, in there, like that. Actually, we'll probably go on the back side where there are no pads. So that's going to get soldered there, because in one of these bags that I pulled out earlier, right here, well, I don't actually have to solder it on, to be honest. So right here, this is our FTDI adapter. So it's got a USB plug on it. It plugs into the computer. And then it connects here to program it. So we could literally just do that. And it should make good enough contact. I turned off autofocus so it won't focus, but that should make good enough contact for it to program. Because these are vias, so it goes all the way through. I'm gonna have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure we have power and ground right here on these two silver pads, and then all these little pads around the outside, all around the perimeter, are the different things that we want. So, you know, one of them's gonna be, do I have a diagram? I thought I had it printed out. Nope. Kind of. So, we just gotta figure out which pads need to get soldered to that. So we're gonna have video going into it. One of them's gonna have video in, video out. We're gonna have ground in, ground out. Or ground, yeah, and then voltage in and voltage out. And it's gonna go in between the camera and the receiver, but it's also got to tap into the flight controller. So, let's see. Let's mount that, and then this, well, we'll get this mounted on it. There we go. I'm excited. I think this is where we're gonna call it wraps for the night. It's 10:30. The wife should be home any minute now. So I'll probably get out of here, get this place cleaned up. All right. Yeah, the wife's gonna be home pretty soon, so I think we'll call it quits for now here, but I think we made some pretty good progress. We've got something that actually is starting to resemble a drone. If we take this off, that way we can kind of put it together. We'll take this extension, we'll put it in the box, because we're gonna have to do something with the back end of that drone to get that working anyways. So we'll put that in there, the other extension. Okay. That can go in that box. This is for the camera, which is already mounted, but we can put the receiver in here. Let's get rid of this foam. We can put the receiver in there and the wires. Don't need that foam. This is the old antenna, but these little whip antennas stink compared to the aerial, the circular polarized that I bought. So these with the top on them like that, those are much better antennas. And the reason is, these antennas transmit in a line. So if you have two antennas in line with each other, like this, they talk great because they're talking to each other in line. Once you twist them sideways, you're only making contact at that one cross section, and it's a poor signal. The circular polarized send out like a donut shape. So from the inside, it just expands out into like a donut shape. So it gets a much better cross signal when you're tilting your drone. So there's the camera, there's that. These little pieces are for the CC3D, or the minimum OSD, so we'll put those in there. Shielded bag. This is for our FTDI adapter. That's going to be to program the minimum OSD right over here. And then we do have this other mini power supply. Or power distribution board. Not sure what I'm going to do with it. It was an extra one, but it's fine. We'll use it. Okay. So this is going to go on the bottom side, but right there. So that'll go here. Let's just put this together real quick so we can see what's going on. So that's going to go here. The battery's going to come out the outside. That's going to mount under here. These will get kind of like zip tied out as tails. That way we can connect to it. And then the battery will go on top. Where's the taped battery? Oh, it's charging. So that'll go on top. And then there's going to be a couple little pieces in there because we're going to have the antenna coming off the top. Like this. So that's it. You know, now it's just the tedious stuff of trimming and wiring and soldering. But that's roughly what it's going to look like. Something like that. A little sandwich stack in the middle. You're confused? I'm sure you are. We're building a drone. I'm ending the stream, but we're building a drone. So we're building a first-person vision racing quadcopter. Yep. Lots of work still ahead. So the wife's out of town, or not out of town, out for the night. So I figured now would be a really good opportunity to get my drone build on. Been procrastinating on it, and I figured now she's gone and I got a free night that I can do whatever I want with because the kids are sleeping. Figured why not build a drone, right? Why not? Okay, let's get this last nut on. There we go. So there we go. Cool. Well, we're going to get cleaned up here. Unless you want to watch me clean this space, I'm going to get on out of here. I keep forgetting that you guys are way up there. I'm looking over here where my camera usually is. Whoa! Wagnerox. Thank you for the $1 donation. I appreciate that. Hey man, nice stream. Unique in a way that's not gaming. You earned a sub. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know why my notification sound didn't come through, but I do appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, this is just a project I've been putting on hold for a long time. I've had the parts for almost a year now, so like my CC3D is probably outdated. But I got the parts and I've just been like anticipating the build. And so finally I said, you know what? Let's just get it done. Let's just build this thing. So this was kind of a smaller... Ah, hey, Wagnerox. Thanks for that follow. I appreciate it. So we kind of got the basis down. So this is a custom modified ZMR250. So it originally was supposed to look like this. So it's going to have the standoffs. The top plate would mount on right there. And then everything would get sandwiched in between. But I do everything unique and custom. So the way I have it set up is everything's sandwiched in between like this. So it makes it a lot smaller profile. And then I bought another ZMR250 frame, as you noticed, the one I threw. So I took a 2 top and a bottom. And so now we have like this slip cage. So that'll go over here, like that. So then we have these standoffs that were originally supposed to go in here, we're going to cut those down so they're going to go in between these two. So we're going to have little tiny standoffs on each side that will stay attached to this frame. So this camera frame will be like a little module that we can slide over top. Basically, this is all our power. So we have our main battery power, our power distribution board, our ESC controllers on each one will go into the pads there. And then this is our flight controller. And then we still got to mount our radio receiver, our on-screen display, our camera transceiver, and then we can start soldering and everything and getting it together. But like I said, I'm gonna be packing up here because I've been building this thing for almost 2 hours now. What are we at? Yeah, 2 hours and 15 minutes, and the wife's gonna be on her way back soon. So I gotta get this disaster cleaned up before I have to sleep on that bed. But again, Wagnerox, hopefully I'm saying that right. Wagnerox, thank you for the follow. Thank you for that $1 donation. I really do appreciate that. I am not sure when this build will continue, but if you want to stay up to date, I'll make an announcement in my Discord when I do end up continuing the build. So if you want to get in that Discord and whenever I do decide to continue this build, I'll post as much of a notice as I can, because I usually stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Tuesdays and Thursdays is Minecraft. Sundays is Borderlands 2 co-op with the wife. I also do a puzzle building stream with the wife roughly once a month on Friday nights. And so the next time I get a free night that's not a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or Sunday, the wife's off doing something, I'll probably continue this. I don't know when that will be though. So hopefully the next stream we can start getting into the nitty-gritty, getting some wiring done, cleaning up this mess, because this is all going to get chopped off and shortened. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be really, really cool. Super excited about it. So anyways, thanks for coming out. Thanks for hanging with me. Thanks for the encouragement and the small conversations in chat. And yeah, I will see you guys on the next stream tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I will be playing Minecraft, just having a little bit of fun in a realm with my family and friends. So till then, oh, you're up here. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.